Hello guys, welcome back to In 5 Minutes. In this presentation we are going to see a up counter, particularly VHDl code for the 4-bit binary up counter. Okay, so let us directly start to write down the code, VHDl code for the up counter. So for that basically we have to use the library. So we are using here IEEE library. Okay, so in library IEEE we are going to use a standard logic family 1164 and standard logic unsigned all. So this is the first thing that we have to do. Secondly, we have to define the entity. Now we all know what is the syntax to define the entity. VHDL is a case insensitive language. You can use uppercase and lowercase letters, the combination of both. Okay, so here counter is the name of the entity and the syntax is entity is. In between that you have to write down the name of the entity. It can be anything, uppercase or a lowercase letters. So entity counter is, since we are designing the counter, writing down the code for counter. So in the entity it is nothing but the user interface, input and output interface. So basically entity is nothing but, suppose this box is the counter to which input and output ports are defined. So port definition is going on for the ports. Port interface clock and CLR, that is nothing but the clear. Clock and clear, these are the input standard logics. So clock, I'm going to connect here. So this is the clock and clear. So these are the input interface, whereas Q is the only output standard logic vector. So Q is a output type of interface, so it's a logic vector. So what I will do, I'll draw a bus here. So this is the Q, 3 down to 0. So we can write down particularly it will be Q3, Q2, Q1 and Q0. 4 distinct bits will be there. So that's why a broad arrow or the bus arrow I have drawn here. But for clock and clear there will be only single line. So I have defined only counter. So this will be name counter. This is the entity. So since the interface is defined, the syntax is end with the entity name, that is nothing but end counter. Now this is a behavioral code I am writing here. So architecture R key of counter is, so this is the name of the architecture, whereas this is the name of entity. Okay, so name of architecture, whereas counter is name of entity. As it is, you have to mention here, and is the syntax. So in that we are going to use a temporary signal. Okay, so we have defined that signal space TMP, that is nothing but temporary signal, which is nothing but standard logic vector, once again 3 down to 0. So after defining or starting this, let us begin to describe the behavioral architecture of the VHDL code for up counter.